A mother in Ohio just discovered her son lied about their family vacation, but that wasn't the worst part. When she dug deeper, she found something that made her blood run cold. He'd been manipulating her for years, and it cost her $70,000. Imagine trusting someone with your whole heart. You sacrifice everything for them. Then one day you realize it was all a lie. Every smile, every promise, every "I love you, Mom." But the truth behind this will shock you. Because this story isn't just about one lie. It's about how one brave woman discovered the manipulation, how she found the courage to cut off the money tap, and how losing $70,000 actually saved her life. You're about to discover 3 things that will change how you see family relationships forever. First, the innocent vacation request that exposed years of deception. Second, the hidden financial trail that revealed the true cost of blind trust. And third, the life-changing moment when saying no became the most powerful word she ever spoke. This is a story about betrayal. But it's also about freedom. It's about what happens when you finally choose yourself. And trust me, by the end, you'll never look at family obligations the same way again. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Sarah worked as a nurse for 35 years. She lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in Columbus, Ohio. Every paycheck, she put money aside. Not for herself. For her son, Marcus. Marcus was her only child. His father left when Marcus was 3. So Sarah became both parents. She worked double shifts. She skipped vacations. She drove the same car for 15 years. Also, Marcus could have opportunities she never had. By the time Marcus turned 32, Sarah had given him over $70,000. College tuition, car down payments, rent deposits, business startup costs, emergency loans. She never said no, because that's what mothers do, right? Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was March 2024. Marcus wanted to plan a family vacation. Just him, Sarah, and his girlfriend Emma. A week in the Bahamas. Quality time together. He said he'd been saving up. He just needed Sarah to book it on her credit card. He'd pay her back within 2 months. Sarah felt warm inside. Her son wanted to spend time with her. After years of canceled plans and missed holidays, this felt like a breakthrough. She booked the trip that same day. $5,000 for flights and resort. She didn't hesitate. But here's the first surprise. Marcus had made this same promise before. The "I'll pay you back" promise, at least 15 times over the past decade. Sarah had a folder full of unpaid IOUs, but she convinced herself this time would be different. 2 weeks before the trip, Marcus called again. There was a problem with the resort booking. He needed Sarah to upgrade their rooms. Another $2,000. Sarah's credit card was nearly maxed out, but she did it anyway. Then, 3 days before they were supposed to leave, Marcus canceled. His girlfriend broke up with him. He was too heartbroken to travel. He promised they'd reschedule soon. Sarah understood. She comforted him. She didn't ask about the money. That's when her best friend Linda asked a simple question. "Did Marcus ever actually book anything? Or did he just ask you to?" Sarah froze. She realized she never saw any confirmations. She never got any itinerary. Marcus handled everything. Or so he said. Now here's where things get really interesting. Sarah couldn't sleep that night. Linda's question kept echoing in her mind. The next morning, she did something she'd never done before. She called the resort in the Bahamas directly. The woman on the phone was polite. She checked the system. Then she delivered the news. There was no booking under Marcus's name. No booking under Sarah's name either. Nothing for those dates. Nothing at all. Sarah's hands started shaking. She called the airline. Same story. No tickets purchased. No reservations made. The $7,000 she'd sent Marcus had vanished into thin air. But Sarah needed to be sure. Maybe he used a different name. Maybe there was a mistake. So she asked Marcus directly. She kept her voice calm. She said the resort called about confirming details. What was the booking reference number? Marcus got defensive immediately. He said the resort was incompetent. They probably lost the booking. He'd call them himself and sort it out. He'd call her back in an hour. He never called back. Sarah waited 3 days. Then she checked her credit card statement online. That's when she found something that made her stomach drop. The $7,000 hadn't been charged to a resort or airline. It had been transferred directly to Marcus's bank account. There was no vacation booking. There never was. For most people, this would be the breaking point. But Sarah knew Marcus. She knew how he operated. This wasn't the first time he'd been creative with the truth. So she did something she should have done years ago. She went through her old bank statements. All of them. Every transaction for the past 10 years. What she discovered was worse than she imagined. The $70,000 she thought went to college and rent and emergencies had a very different story. Marcus graduated from community college, not university. His tuition was only $12,000, not $40,000. The business he said he started never existed. She found the state business registry online. No company under his name. No LLC, nothing. The car she helped him buy reportedly cost $15,000. She found the actual purchase receipt in an old email. He paid $6,000. Where did the other $9,000 go? She didn't know. Every emergency over the years followed the same pattern. Marcus would call in distress. He needed money immediately. Rent was due. His boss hadn't paid him. His car broke down. His bank account was hacked. Sarah would send money within hours, and Marcus would disappear for weeks afterward. According to financial experts, this pattern has a name: financial elder abuse. It reportedly affects 1 in 10 older adults in America. The most common perpetrators are adult children. They use guilt, manipulation, and family obligation as weapons, and it works because parents want to believe their children love them. Sarah sat at her kitchen table with 10 years of statements spread out in front of her. She added up the real costs versus what Marcus claimed. The gap was almost $45,000. Money that went somewhere she couldn't track. Money she'd never see again. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Sarah made a decision. She needed to know the truth, all of it. So she hired a private investigator. His name was Robert. He specialized in financial fraud cases. Sarah felt guilty doing this. Investigating her own son felt like a betrayal. But Robert told her something that changed her perspective. You're not betraying him. You're protecting yourself. Robert worked fast. Within 2 weeks, he had a complete picture of Marcus's life, and it was nothing like what Sarah believed. Marcus didn't live in the small apartment he'd told Sarah about. He lived in a luxury condo downtown. Rent was $3,000 a month. He drove a BMW, not the Toyota he said he bought. The BMW was leased, but it wasn't cheap. Every weekend, according to Robert's findings, Marcus went to expensive restaurants. He took trips to Las Vegas. He bought designer clothes. His Instagram was private, but Robert had ways. The photos showed a lifestyle that didn't match someone who constantly needed money from his mother. But here's what really broke Sarah's heart. Marcus had a girlfriend. Her name was Jessica, not Emma. They'd been together for 3 years. Sarah had never met her, never even heard her name until now. Marcus kept his mother completely separate from his real life. Robert dug deeper into Marcus's finances. What he found was a mess. Marcus had 5 credit cards, all maxed out. He owed $30,000 in credit card debt. He had 2 personal loans totaling $15,000. His car lease was 2 months behind. He was drowning financially, but none of that debt came from emergencies or bad luck. It came from choices. Marcus wanted to live like he was rich. He wanted the fancy condo and the nice car and the expensive dinners. So he spent money he didn't have. And when the bills came due, he called his mother. Sarah realized something painful. She wasn't helping her son. She was enabling him. Every dollar she sent taught him that he didn't need to be responsible. Mom would always bail him out. He never had to face consequences. He never had to grow up. According to sources familiar with family dynamics, this pattern often starts small. A parent helps out once, then twice, then it becomes expected. The child doesn't see it as help anymore. They see it as an entitlement. They believe their parent owes them. Robert also uncovered something else. The fake vacation wasn't Marcus's idea alone. His girlfriend Jessica reportedly knew about it. Text messages between them showed they planned it together. Jessica allegedly said, "Just tell your mom you need it for something emotional." "She always falls for that," Marcus replied. "Already done." She booked everything. "We're going to Cancun instead." They were going to take a vacation, just not with Sarah. They were going to use her money to fund their own trip, and Sarah would never have known. But the investigation revealed one more thing. Sarah wasn't Marcus's only victim. He'd borrowed money from his aunt 3 times. He owed his cousin $2,000 from 2 years ago. He'd asked his grandmother for $5,000 last Christmas. Everyone in the family had a Marcus story, but no one talked about it openly. They all suffered in silence. Robert finished his report with a recommendation. Cut him off completely, Not temporarily, permanently, because people like Marcus don't change unless they hit rock bottom. As long as someone keeps catching them, they keep falling. Sarah read the report 3 times. She cried for 2 days. Then she made the hardest decision of her life. She called Marcus. She told him she knew everything. The lies, the manipulation, the fake vacation. All of it, Marcus denied it at first. Then he got angry. Then he tried guilt. "I'm your son. How can you do this to me?" What kind of mother investigates her own child? But Sarah stayed strong. She told him the money stopped today. No more loans, no more bailouts. He was on his own. Marcus hung up on her. He didn't call back for 3 weeks. When he finally did, he said he'd never forgive her. She was ruining his life. She was a terrible mother. Then he stopped calling altogether. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. Us story. But no one talked about it openly. They all suffered in silence. Sarah expected to feel devastated after cutting Marcus off. She expected guilt and regret and sleepless nights. But something strange happened instead. She felt lighter. For the first time in 32 years, she felt free. The first week was hard. Sarah kept checking her phone. She worried Marcus was in trouble. What if he really needed help this time? What if something bad happened? But Linda reminded her of something important. Marcus is 32 years old. He has a job. He has a place to live. He's capable of taking care of himself. He just chose not to because you made it easy. By the second week, Sarah noticed something. Her credit card bill was manageable. She wasn't sending emergency transfers. She wasn't covering someone else's mistakes. Her money was her own again. She paid down $2,000 of debt. It felt incredible. But the real revelation came when Sarah looked at her bank account at the end of the month. For the first time in over a decade, she had money left over. Not a lot, but enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to save. Enough to actually plan for her own future. Sarah started doing things she'd never done before. She went to a movie by herself. She bought new clothes that weren't on clearance. She signed up for a yoga class she'd always wanted to try. Small things, but they felt revolutionary. Because for 32 years, every decision was about Marcus. What did Marcus need? What could Sarah sacrifice for Marcus? Now she was choosing herself. Then something unexpected happened. Sarah's co-workers at the hospital noticed the change. She smiled more. She had energy. One of them, a woman named Patricia, asked what was different. Sarah told her the story. Everything. The lies, the money, the investigation, the cutoff. Patricia didn't judge. Instead, she shared her own story. She had a daughter who'd done something similar, borrowed money for years, never paid it back, made up emergencies. Patricia finally said no 5 years ago. Her daughter didn't speak to her for 2 years. But eventually, the daughter got her life together. She got serious about her job. She started budgeting. She grew up. And now their relationship was better than ever. Because it was built on honesty, not money. That conversation gave Sarah hope. But it also made her realize something bigger. This wasn't just about Marcus. This was about her. Sarah had spent her entire adult life believing her worth came from what she could give, how much she could sacrifice, how much she could endure. She measured love in dollars and stress and sleepless nights, but that's not love. That's martyrdom. Real love has boundaries. Real love says, I care about you, but I also care about myself. Real love doesn't destroy one person to save another. Sarah had been destroying herself for years, and she called it motherhood. The most shocking part wasn't Marcus's betrayal. It was Sarah's own realization. She had betrayed herself. Every time she ignored her instincts. Every time she said yes when she wanted to say no. Every time she chose his comfort over her own well-being. She had abandoned herself long before Marcus abandoned her. According to therapists who work with family dynamics, this pattern is common among parents, especially mothers. Society teaches them that good parents sacrifice everything. That saying no makes you selfish. That boundaries make you cold. So they give and give until there's nothing left, and they wonder why they feel empty. Sarah had been empty for years. She just didn't know it because she was too busy filling everyone else's cup. Now, for the first time, she was pouring into her own. And it felt strange. Wrong even. Like she was doing something forbidden. But she kept going anyway. 3 months after cutting Marcus off, Sarah made another big decision. She sold her house. The 3-bedroom house she'd bought for Marcus. So he'd have a childhood home to remember, so he'd always have a place to come back to. But Marcus was never coming back. And Sarah didn't need 3 bedrooms for herself. She bought a small condo instead. 2 bedrooms, modern, easy to maintain, and $1,500 cheaper every month. That extra money went straight into her retirement account. Sarah was 58. She'd saved almost nothing for retirement because everything went to Marcus. Now she was starting over. But starting over felt better than staying stuck. So what does all this mean for us today? Sarah's story isn't unique. Across America, Canada, and the UK, thousands of parents are living this same nightmare. They give everything to their children, and their children take everything without gratitude. It's a crisis no one talks about because it's wrapped in shame. Parents feel ashamed for having ungrateful children. They think it means they failed somehow. They must have done something wrong. So they hide it. They don't tell their friends. They don't tell their family. They suffer alone. But here's what experts say. You can be a good parent and still raise a child who manipulates you. You can love your child deeply and still need boundaries with them. Those 2 things aren't opposites. They're both true at the same time. The pattern Sarah experienced has several warning signs. First, the requests always come with urgency. I need this now, today, right away. There's never time to think. Never time to ask questions. That's intentional. Urgency prevents rational thinking. Second, the stories always involve circumstances beyond their control. My boss didn't pay me. My roommate stole from me. The bank made an error. It's never their fault. They're always the victim, and you're always the rescuer. Third, they isolate you from the truth. You never meet the landlord they're paying. You never see the bills they're covering. You never get proof of anything. You just have to trust them. And when you ask questions, they get defensive. Don't you trust me? I'm your child. Fourth, repayment is always promised but never happens. I'll pay you back next month. Next month comes. Silence. You don't want to be the nagging parent who asks about money. So you let it go, and they know you will. These tactics work because they exploit your love. They weaponize your desire to help. They turn your compassion into their ATM. And the worst part is, they often don't even realize they're doing it. They've convinced themselves they deserve your money. They believe their needs matter more than yours. For viewers watching this, here's what you need to know. If you recognize this pattern in your life, you're not alone. And you're not a bad parent for feeling exhausted. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't love someone. It means you love yourself too. Here are some practical steps based on what Sarah learned. First, stop making emergency decisions. When someone asks for money, take 24 hours to think. Real emergencies can wait 1 day. Fake ones will pressure you immediately. Second, ask for proof. If they need money for rent, ask to see the lease. If they need money for car repairs, ask for the mechanic's estimate. If they get angry at these requests, that's your answer. Honest people don't mind providing proof. Third, put everything in writing. If you do loan money, write down the amount, the date, and the repayment terms. Both of you sign it. This protects you legally, but more importantly, it makes the transaction real. It's not a gift. It's a loan. Fourth, talk to other family members. You might discover you're not the only target. Comparing notes can reveal patterns, and there's strength in numbers. If everyone sets boundaries together, the manipulation stops working. Fifth, and most important, get therapy for yourself. Not because you're broken, but because you need support. Cutting off a manipulative child is traumatic, even when it's the right choice. You need someone who can help you process the grief and guilt without judgment. Sarah did all of these things. She joined a support group for parents of adult children. She found a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. She reconnected with friends she'd neglected for years. She built a life that didn't revolve around Marcus's needs, and slowly, something beautiful happened. Sarah rediscovered who she was before she became Marcus's mother. She had interests. She had dreams. She had a personality that existed independent of him. For 32 years, she'd forgotten that person existed. The financial freedom was important, but the emotional freedom was everything. Sarah no longer woke up with anxiety about what crisis might come today. She no longer checked her phone every 5 minutes. She no longer lived in a constant state of emergency. She lived in peace. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. 6 months after Sarah cut Marcus off, something unexpected happened. He called, not to ask for money, not to guilt her, just to talk. His voice was different, quieter, humbler. Marcus told Sarah he'd hit rock bottom. His credit cards were all canceled. His car got repossessed. He almost got evicted. For the first time in his adult life, he had to face real consequences. No one was there to save him, and it terrified him. But something else happened too. He got serious. He took a financial literacy class. He started working overtime. He moved to a cheaper apartment. He sold the designer clothes. He started paying down his debt, $500 at a time. It was slow. It was hard, but he was doing it himself. Marcus didn't apologize right away. That came later in another conversation. But Sarah could hear the change in his voice. He talked about his budget, his goals, his plans, things he'd never talked about before because he'd never had to think about them. Sarah didn't trust it completely. Not yet. Trust has to be earned back slowly. But she was hopeful, because for the first time Marcus was acting like an adult, and it only happened because she stopped treating him like a child. Here's the final twist that reframes everything. Sarah's decision to cut Marcus off wasn't cruel. It was the most loving thing she'd ever done for him, because she finally gave him something he desperately needed. The opportunity to fail, the chance to struggle, the space to grow up. Parents think protecting their children from consequences is love. But it's not. It's fear. Fear that they'll fail. Fear that they'll struggle. Fear that they'll blame you. But failure is how people learn. Struggle is how people grow. And the children who never experience either stay children forever. Sarah looks back now and wishes she'd set boundaries years earlier. Marcus would be in a better place. She would be in a better place. They both lost a decade to this unhealthy pattern. But she doesn't dwell on regret, because the best time to set boundaries was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. The $70,000 is gone. Sarah will never get it back. But she gained something more valuable. Her self-respect, her peace of mind, her future, and maybe eventually a real relationship with her son, one built on mutual respect instead of financial manipulation. If this opened your eyes, let's recap what we learned from Sarah's incredible journey. First, financial manipulation often hides behind family obligation. When someone uses "but I'm your child" as a reason you should ignore warning signs, that's a red flag, not a reason to comply. Second, saying no is not selfish. It's self-preservation. You cannot help someone from an empty cup, and draining yourself to fill them doesn't help either of you. It just creates two people drowning instead of one. Third, enabling and helping are not the same thing. Helping someone gives them tools to succeed. Enabling someone removes the consequences that would teach them to use those tools. Sarah thought she was helping Marcus for years. She was actually preventing him from learning how to help himself. Fourth, it's never too late to set boundaries. Sarah was 58 when she finally said no. She thought it was too late. She thought the damage was permanent. But within months, her entire life transformed. Change is possible at any age, for both parent and child. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in Sarah's story, I want you to know something. You're not a bad parent. You're not selfish for wanting your own life. You're not cruel for being tired. You gave everything you had. Now it's time to give to yourself. Start small if you need to. Say no to one request. Take 24 hours before making a decision. Ask for proof of one expense. Each small boundary builds your strength for bigger ones. And eventually, you'll find yourself living a life that feels like yours again. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in Marcus's story, there's hope for you too. Change is hard. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable. But it's the only path to real independence and self-respect. Your parents won't be here forever. At some point, you'll have to stand on your own. Starting now gives you more time to figure it out. And if you're watching this and you've never experienced this dynamic, consider yourself lucky. But also stay aware. These patterns can start slowly. They can sneak up on you. The best protection is knowing the warning signs and trusting your instincts when something feels off. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with a family member? How did it turn out? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Sometimes knowing we're not alone gives us the courage to change. If this video helped you see your situation more clearly, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can find this message. Subscribe to the channel because we're building a community of people who choose healthy relationships over comfortable dysfunction. And click the bell so you never miss when we share more stories like Sarah's. I've also created a free guide called 5 questions to ask before giving money to family. It helps you make clear decisions without guilt or confusion. The link is in the description below. Download it today. It might save you thousands of dollars and years of regret. Next week, we're diving into another powerful story. It's about a woman who discovered her sister had been stealing her identity for 7 years. The financial damage was catastrophic, but the emotional journey to recovery will inspire you. You won't want to miss it. Remember, loving yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Choosing your peace isn't cruel. It's necessary. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. That's not abandonment. That's faith that they're strong enough to learn and grow. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. And thank you for having the courage to look at hard truths. Change starts with awareness, and awareness starts with stories like Sarah's. See you next week.